All right. So I'm sitting here with my friend Iker Puente. It's awesome. Thanks for making this happen. We pulled this together. I guess we pulled this together last day.
Yeah.
And so Iker is the author of his book. It's in Spanish right now, and is a crowdfunder at the moment to translate it into English. The book, the translated title is Psychedelic, Psychotherapy and Research, Past, Present, and Future. And Iker is coming from a background in transpersonal psychology, and he then went and interviewed basically all of the legends in the psychedelic, psychotherapy, and research realms from since the 50s, right? And today, and who presumably are going to be the ones going into the future leading it.
Yeah.
I would be great to hear. Tell us about some of the people who were the most. Of the people you interviewed, who impacted you personally the most?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, and thank you, Mike, for making that happen, because you pushed me to come to this conference, and you even invite me to come. So yeah, that's great.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for coming.
So, well, first I wanna explain a little bit about why I started doing this book and how I started being interested in the field of psychedelic research and psychotherapy. So, I explained this in the introduction of the book. So, when I was 17, I have my first psychedelic experience. So I have this experience with psilocybin mushrooms. They grow naturally where I was born, in the Basque Country. So I was supposed to start a business career, like I was thinking to go to the university and study economy. So after having this experience, which was profound, I was thinking first to study philosophy, and then I thought about studying psychology, and I thought I will find some answers to that experience in the psychology department. But I found that they don't explain anything about this in the university. Nothing about transpersonal psychology, nothing about psychedelics. The few things they explained about psychedelics was linked with drugs, and they were saying that they were dangerous, and I mean, it was really weird to find out that, because my experience was not fitting with this explanation. So I started finding information by myself. I started reading Stangrove books. I started reading transpersonal psychology. I started finding these studies on psychedelic research, which were done in the past, because this was 1996, so it was no new studies at this moment.
Before MAPS was really big, they were around, but
it was biggest Strassman thing, but I didn't know about that. Yeah. But this was before internet, so I wasn't able to find information through internet. So I started finding this information by my own, and then when internet started being bigger in Spain, I was able to find more links with these studies, with MAPS. Yeah, so this was in 2000, maybe, 1999 or 2000, so it was the moment when I started being connected with this community.
And at this time you were an undergrad, or in your PhD?
I was finishing my university psychology studies, so and I was even scared about psychedelics at this moment because of this information that they give me in the university. I was like, oh, this might be dangerous, maybe. So then in 1999 I went to London to live for a summer, and I have my first MDMA experience. So, and I also talk about that in my introduction. And when I have my MDMA experience, my first MDMA experience, I really understood what is empathy about, because they were talking about, they didn't talk about psychedelics, but they talk about empathy in the university. You must be an empathic person to be a psychotherapist, but I didn't really know what was empathy. And when I have this MDMA experience, it was like, oh wow, this is empathy. I mean, so this was the moment that I reconnect with this field like more strongly, and it was the moment that internet started to be big in Spain also, so I was able to find information about MDMA. At this moment, Jose Carlos Bouso was doing his first MDMA PTSD study in Spain, which by the way was shut down by the government. But this
Was
is
this part of MAPS?
This was part of MAPS, yes.
And the MAPS, if those of you who don't know yet, this is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, who's spearheading all the MDMA for PTSD research. So this is like the earlier days.
Yeah.
Before it was, right now it's phase 3 trials with the FDA, about to be approved, but this is a different time.
Yeah,
when MDMA wasn't on the verge of.
This was the dark age mostly because,
right.
Yeah, I mean, he started the study. It was the first MDMA PTSD study, and it was in Madrid. And after starting the study, they sat down. I mean, I'm not going to explain the whole history, but José Carlos Bouso interview is in the book, and he explained all the details about this. So, but I started having more information about this, and then there were these conferences in Spain about psychedelics, in Barcelona especially.
Which conference?
There were seminars in non-ordinary states of consciousness and psychedelics. So I attended them, and I decided to move to Barcelona to live because of that in 2001. So
Barcelona was more friendly to the psychedelic scene.
It was the place to be.
And this you said it's early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s?
2001. So I moved there and I started having more connection with the community. And then in 2006 I was in the 100th anniversary of Albert Hofmann. He was alive. It was in Basel, and this was the moment that I realized that a lot of things were going on, because it was like 2,000 people there, and Rick Doblin was there.
Albert Hofmann has discovered LSD.
Yeah, so Rick Doblin was there, and a bunch of psychedelic researchers. So it was the moment that I realized that this was coming back. So after this conference, I started going to psychedelic conferences.
We met at a psychedelic conference.
Yeah, in a few of them.
Yeah,
so,
a few of them.
So I started going in 2006, 2007, 2008. I was in Horizons 3 times. I was in Basel again in 2008, and then in a bunch of them. So it was like progressive. And then in 2009, I made the first interview for the book.
Who was the first one?
It was the first one, Stan Grof.
Okay, that's a good way to start.
Yeah, at that moment, I was doing my PhD in transpersonal psychology, and because it was so difficult to do psychedelic research, I decided to move to study holotropic breathwork. So Stan Grof was very interested in my research, because no one was doing research on holotropic breathwork. A few people, so we exchanged emails, we meet in person. He invited me to a big workshop in New York, so I collect data for my PhD in his workshops. And then I asked him to make an interview. And answering your question, one of the most amazing men I've met in this community is Stan Grof. And just to put an example, the interview was done. He was flying back after an 8-day workshop, and he was 67.
For breathwork?
Yeah, breathwork workshop. So,
and can you give on a side note, give a brief description of what holotropic breathwork is?
Yeah, Stan Grof was working with psychedelics for 20 years. From the 1957 until 1974. So then it was the prohibition, and we will talk about this briefly later, but so he decided to find other ways to produce or induce non-ordinary state of consciousness. Right. So he discovered that the breathwork was a way to induce these states.
Because you can't make breathing illegal.
Yeah, for the moment, no. So, and it's free. So he started doing this kind of combination of breath work with music and body work, based on his work with psychedelics in Baltimore in the 70s.
In Spring Grove, yeah.
Yeah, in Spring Grove. So he discovered that you can has profound experience with psychedelics with breath work, so he moved to that, and he has been doing that for 40 years now. So, and about the interview, it was after the workshop, 8 days of workshop. It's a lot of work, lot of energy. He was for sure tired, and I told him to make the interview, and he was like, I am taking my plane tomorrow. So I was like, okay, as you want. And he told me, no, came to my hotel in the airport, So 3 hours before his plane,
Wow.
I went to the New York JFK airport and we make the interview in his room, in his hotel room.
Wow. Okay. What year is this?
It was 2009.
Okay. So this book is nearly a decade in the making.
Yeah, it has been like 8 years of making these interviews. So yeah. So and his wife was sick at this moment, Christina Groth, and he was on phone with his wife, like he was super sick. And anyway, he said, okay, I need to do this interview because I compromise with you, so let's do it. So we were like for 1 hour and a half doing the interview, even though he was tired, he needs to take the plane, and he has his wife sick. So it was really amazing to see his devotion to explain his work and talking about psychedelic research. So this was amazing, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that he made the time to do this because of how.
And then we have more conversation during the year, so he has always time to ask questions about this work. So he's pretty amazing.
So what was the biggest thing that you learned from your personal interview with Stan?
I think I learned a lot of things. I mean, with Stan, I mean, his presence, I mean, more than his knowledge, and he has a lot of knowledge, but his presence is like, he's really with you when he's talking, he's really present, and he's really giving your time, his time and his knowledge to you, and it's like everything disappears when you are talking with him. And by the way, this is something that I found with a lot of people in this community. I mean, they are so generous with his time, and they are giving to you his time, his attention, I mean, another amazing thing is that after making the transcription of the interviews, I connect with them and I say, well, if you want to check the transcription, you can do it. I mean, you don't need to, but you can do it. And almost everyone was willing to edit the interviews. I mean, taking some hours to edit it and to add more things or to correct things. So, I mean, and this was amazing because these guys they are working hard. I mean, they don't have very lot of free time. And I mean, Lisa Danforth, for example, he told me he was for 6 hours correcting the interview. So it was amazing to see how this devotion to really willing to make this happen. No?
Yeah.
This is really amazing of this community. I mean, yeah.
That's great. So who did you follow up with next after Stan?
I think the next ones were in the International Transpersonal Conference, the previous one from the Prague of this year. This was in Moscow in 2010. So I interviewed Michael and Ann Mitchhofer,
who are on the cover of the book here. Yeah. And they are the pioneers of the MDMA psychotherapy for PTSD, the MAPS protocols. So that's great. They are the world experts on the MDMA for PTSD psychotherapy, and more than just that too.
Yeah.
Well, how was that?
They also came from breathwork. They were trained with Stan Grof. So, and I also interviewed in this conference Bill Richards.
Yeah.
So Bill Richards is also working with psilocybin especially.
Yeah.
But he came from the 60s and 70s working with Stan Grof in Spring Grove also.
Yeah.
So, and I was also amazed that they were so humble. I mean, I have another anecdote with Bill Richards. I have my presentation in that conference. It was my first presentation in English in a big conference, and I was with my PowerPoint. And he just came by and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm preparing my presentation." And he told me, "Okay, show me." And he was 45 minutes with me, looking to the whole thing, and he was like, you need to correct this. This word is not like this. And
he personally helped you with
it. He was like coaching me for the presentation, amazing. And we just met. I mean, we just met half an hour ago, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna help you."
And Bill Richards is another, literally a living legend in the psychedelic research realm. He, as you mentioned, was involved in the very beginning, early days in the 50s, and he also helped to restart the psychedelic research now at Johns Hopkins. Bill Richards, along with Roland Griffiths, started the psilocybin program at Hopkins. And as it's been described, Roland is the mind of the Hopkins psilocybin program, and Bill Richards is the heart of it.
Another amazing thing about Bill Richards, he started working with psychedelics in 1963, and he's still active. I mean, he wasn't able to work between 73 and 99, right. But he was willing to continue, so he has been more than 50 years working with these medicines. So this is another example of how deeply changed the lives of people working with these medicines. So this was another amazing thing to see. I mean, his devotion to this work, no?
Yeah.
And he was waiting for 25 years. I mean, writing papers and waiting to the opportunity to start again. And then in the 99, he started again, and he has been doing it for 18 years now. And he's also like 76. I mean, he's like old guy, and he's still sitting with people for 8 hours with psilocybin. So, and I have another anecdote with Bill Richards.
I always love a good Bill Richards story.
I invited him to Barcelona to give a seminar, but we haven't like money for making it. So he was coming to Amsterdam conference on psychedelics 2016, and I told him, okay, we are going to set up this, and if we have money, we are going to pay you, but we don't know how many people is going to come. And he was like, I'm going to go anyway. I mean, you just pay my plane, and that's fine. And I told him, okay, but can you stay at my home if we don't have money for the hotel or whatever? And he was like, sure, I mean, yes, I will stay. So he came to Barcelona. We didn't break even. I mean, we just covered the plane, and his accommodation was in my house, and he was sleeping in my bed for 5 days, and he was like super humble, and I mean, he didn't ask for anything. I mean, he was like, I mean, I didn't pay a euro for him. I was like for free, having Bill Richards doing a seminar in Barcelona for 2 days, and he even don't pay. We didn't pay anything because we haven't had the money. So, but he was open because this devotion to this work. No? This was amazing to see also. Yeah.
And that's been definitely a recurring thing I've seen in this community. It's so many people have been willing to just do this out of just the devotion in their heart, and it's been a lot. So much love and it gets gone into that's a symposia, right? So many people have contributed of just their own time because they believe in it, or so psychedelic societies happening around the world. So many of them are springing up, and these are people doing this because it's something they believe in, they care about, and that's definitely an amazing thing about this community.
No, and the same happened with Michael Mitzhofer. He also came from